Last week, President Joe Biden announced another $5 billion in additional student debt cancellation. This latest round of student loan forgiveness will impact about 75,000 borrowers. To talk more about this is debt attorney Leslie Tayne with Tayne Law. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Okay, so tell us who is included in this latest round of forgiveness and what do those eligible people need to know?
The latest round of forgiveness includes people who have been paying their student loans for 10 years or 20 years. Those also include public service workers like nurses, firefighters, and teachers.
So I'm wondering, as I'm hearing you talk about loan forgiveness, I think about all those people who are not under the specific job titles that are being considered for forgiveness. You know, what do they have to be able to reach out and get assistance and possibly loan forgiveness?
So through the servicer, you could qualify potentially for an income-driven repayment plan, which is based on your income. That's one way. Another way is to consider a position or a new job in the public service world. You could see if your employer does qualify for public student loan forgiveness. And again, but these programs are through the servicer, so you'd need to reach out and ask them. But there are options for those who are not qualifying for this round of forgiveness. But if you are part of the group, you will receive a notification from the Department of Education.
Oh, okay. So getting that notice is key. Keep your eye on what's going on in the mail. President Biden continues to fight for student loan forgiveness for more Americans. What does this latest announcement mean when taking a look at the big picture of this effort?
When you're looking at the big picture about student loan forgiveness, the idea is to try to help as many Americans as possible who are struggling with the student loan repayment process. The latest round shows us that the common denominator are those that have been paying consistently for 10 or 20 years. What I think the takeaway is from this is that if you have federal student loans, it's a great idea to get on board with a payment plan, a repayment plan of some sort through the different options that are available when you contact your servicer. With that, you might be eligible in the future for additional forgiveness programs that could be rolled out by this administration.
That's actually really good advice there. As Biden looks for more widespread forgiveness options, what do you see as the roadblocks to this, though?
So there's a number of challenges to student loan forgiveness, as we've seen. First, as the last issue came up through the Supreme Court, was his ability to act and make this decision widespread on his own through the executive branch. Obviously, there's some challenges related to those who've already paid their student loans, those that are continuing to borrow, and obviously the resources for the additional programs which come from those borrowers who are currently paying back their student loans. So there is billions of dollars in student loan debt out there, and a shortfall or forgiveness widespread could cause challenges with the programs that are currently in place. And also, ultimately, somebody has to make up the shortfall that the government monies would have received, and that likely could end up with taxpayers.
I keep thinking about those who are not eligible for forgiveness or people who are struggling to pay their loans. What do you say to them, and what resources are available for them as they deal with this burden?
Well, federal student loans, unlike the private student loans, have lots of different programs. The key to success in trying to get on board with a program is communication with the servicer. Being able to let the servicer know where you are so that new programs are rolled out, you could be made aware of those. And also the income-driven repayment plans that are based on what your income is. You could be required to pay zero actually back, but again, at least you're enrolled in some sort of a program. If you are struggling with student loans at this point in time, it's understandable. It can take a large chunk out of your budget, but again, reaching out to that servicer and having a conversation about the different programs, you need to advocate for yourself and find out what it is. It's not uncommon for borrowers to say, oh, I can't pay, and then they just ignore the debt overall. That is not advisable, especially, again, under the federal student loan programs. There's so many of them that offer options for forgiveness. The public student loan forgiveness program is one such program where if you work in a qualifying industry as a teacher, a public service worker, and that's a wide variety of services, you could be eligible for public student loan forgiveness, where you're paying back a portion of your loans, and after a certain amount of time, it gets forgiven. But again, if you don't reach out and talk to the servicers about what you particularly qualify for, it's going to be very challenging to repay those student loans. And you could end up ultimately with collections. Right now, the collection efforts are not resuming under those federal loans until next year. But with that said, that year can go very quickly.
Right. Leslie Tayne, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this very confusing topic. You made it a little bit more understanding, and I guess the big takeaway is just communicate. Communicate with those loan agencies if you cannot afford to pay back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.